first one here. Yeah, I know, it's me.
It's a nice picture of the robot on the feed at the moment.
Right.
What are you doing, Dave?
Yeah.
That should be working now. It's very surprising. They've changed it.
Wow, it's a new year.
Just for a change. Keep going toasty. It's the start of a new decade. It's Marty McFly is influencing the future.
Yes, yeah.
So if I start it, if you actually play it, does it work? Oh, there you go. Oh, no, it doesn't work. There it goes.
I can see you now.
Yes, it's working. I can hear you talking about robots. Right, there we go. We're good. So we're all live then. Good evening, Jason, Gary.
Good evening.
Welcome
Good evening.
to 2015.
I know.
Wow.
We should have a fax machine in every room and flying hoverboards and
I
flying cars.
You know what? 2014 feels so last year.
It does. Well, just to be fair, I guess we've still got another 9 months to invent flying cars. And
Yep, yeah. But the one thing they didn't predict in that film at all was the internet. It's quite astounding because everything was on paper.
Yeah.
They had waterproof paper and all sorts of things, but no internet.
That's that weird thing, isn't it? That when you predict, it's like if you watch any science fiction from the 70s, you know, some things like hoverboards, space travel, flying cars, things like that. But I was watching an old episode of a John Pertwee Doctor Who, and they were mining the Earth's core. So, pretty advanced drilling stuff, but they still only had a ticker tape computer printout. So somehow they managed to get time travel, a bit of space exploration in there, getting through the Earth's crust, but they hadn't thought of using the display for the computer.
Yeah. Well, I think about Back to the Future. I've just sat here and with my watch, I've just turned my lights off. Now, that wasn't predicted in Back to the Future, but it sounds pretty futuristic to me. It
does, yeah.
I think in some ways, Back to the Future is interesting in that it most sci-fi programs that kind of look to the future normally try and come up with inventions that might be around by that time. But I think Back to the Future must be relatively unique in that it had a high featured a fax machine, which is something that actually just isn't in use anymore. It's not something that's been invented. It's something that's actually faded away into the background.
Yeah. I mean, it predicts Skype video calls, I guess, but that's
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think my kids might want that TV screen with like 20 different channels all on.
Yeah, that's just cool. But isn't that Snap View in Windows 8?
That's a very good point, actually. I was still smaller, and I remember the old Scotch videotapes with the old skeleton going, "Re-record, not fade away." Now, my kids are like, "What's the videotape? What's that for?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about science fiction is looking back on old science fiction and seeing the future. But Back to the Future is pretty good because it actually names the day, doesn't it? Effectively,
yeah.
Something to measure it by. As a lot of other science fiction, it's very vague, isn't it? But, I mean, I suppose 2001 is a good example of where the date has been set. This is it, and you can then measure it and. But even that, I mean, for all its futuristic look, I mean, I loved 2001. It's fantastic. But when you look at the plastic chairs that Leonard Rossiter sat in on it looks really 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny how that, all science fiction always is defined by its era. And I'm sure it'll be the same as when we look at, I don't know, Doctor Who from now or Battlestar, the remake of Battlestar Galactica in 20, 30, 40 years or whatever, it'll have that very dated look to it.
It's interesting. I mean, if you look at something like Blade Runner, which gets a lot of the future right, the one thing it got thoroughly wrong was televisions. Because everything's CRTs and heavily featured throughout. That's one thing Back to the Future did get right. It did predict flat screen TVs, which actually was pretty ahead of the game on that. Yeah,
because they did have Skype video calling in Blade Runner, but it's a kiosk and not on the.
Yeah.
It's. I love all that stuff, and that's why I love watching the old Doctor Who because it's that sort. It's that very futuristic thing, but very very dated in its very very specific era that it was filmed.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. I did. I can't remember if I mentioned this last week. I don't think we'd watched it by then, but did you watch the TV adaptation of David Walliams' The Boy in the Dress?
No, I haven't seen it, but kids have read the book.
Yeah, the teacher during when they're in detention had a Surface Pro 3 sitting on the desk.
That's why you watched it.
Yes, and I mean I've seen a couple of programs where I think it was Emmerdale, my wife was watching. There was definitely someone with a Windows phone on there, and a very prominent Nokia symbol. But I thought, the boy in the dress was it was very subtle. You wouldn't have known it was one unless it was one. But clearly Microsoft are offering a lot of their kit around for free to be used. And one thing we finally figured out, you probably already figured this one out and will laugh at me, but at the start of some shows you get the PP symbol that comes up. Yeah. And we've been trying to figure out what it is. It's basically
product placement.
Yeah.
Yeah, extensively used on Emmerdale for Windows phones.
Yes, absolutely.
Actually, I was watching the remake of Tomorrow People, The Tomorrow People. I don't know if you've seen that. Yep. Gary might remember the 70s one.
I do remember the 70s one.
Yeah, all right. I think it was 70s, wasn't it?
Yeah. 70s.
Well, there's been a remake of it, and it was on Netflix, and the kids were looking for something to watch, and they kind of like that thing. But there's massive product placement by Microsoft in there. All the computers have got the Windows logo on the back, that you can't actually buy.
Yeah.
And before they launched their special, massive hacking software or whatever, special secret software that they launch, it's on the start screen. And they hit a live tile, and then it disappears to the usual green and black sort of sci-fi computer thing. But they always make a point of going from the start screen for every shot. I think the Lenovo PCs. But yeah, it's like, so they start off, they're checking Twitter, maybe they're checking their email, and then they go into their global security software for scanning for the bad guys or whatever, but it's just which is the usual sort of sci-fi lettering and beeping and the thing. But it's just really funny how it starts off on a live tile.
It's actually talking about Tomorrow People. It reads like, if you actually go back and look at the cast list of the original Tomorrow People, it feels like it's huge. There's sort of people like Nicholas Lyndhurst were in it, Bert Kwok was in it, Dave Prowse was even in it, not playing a Green Cross man.
I've never seen the original of that.
It made a good impression on me. Obviously, as a very young man. That was 1973 to 1979. It ran.
Really?
This Christmas marks quite a milestone for me. I actually watched The Godfather for the first time ever.
Oh.
A little on the late side to that, but
yeah. So we've got 2 and 3 recorded. I don't know why I've never seen it. I mean, I really enjoyed it, but I don't know. It's just one of those films that it's like an iconic film that lots of bits from it, and it's always featured in lots of different films and TV shows. But I finally watched it for the first time.
Yeah,
and not a lot of tech product placement in that film.
No, definitely not. A lot of bullets.
Yeah. Maybe
and a horse's head.
Yeah. Maybe all the guns are all product placement, just that we're like we watch for tech stuff. If you're a gun enthusiast, you'd spot it all in there.
Yeah.
It's a funny. I've been watching a lot of 24, and there's just scenes when they use the computers I have to stop myself from laughing because they look like no system that you've ever seen, and they talk about these things, but it seems to fool the average user. I don't know who they're fooling, but everybody uses computers now. No one's ever seen anything like that.
And all the bad guys have Alienware laptops.
Yeah, that's a good the one of choice. HP or Apple for the good guys.
It's like the old black hat, white hat, isn't it, on the cowboy? Yeah. Always tell the bad because it's got an Alienware piece.
So what are we going to talk about this week? Oh, it's CES this week. So there's been a few announcements from CES.
Just a few. The craziness has already started.
Yeah.
I can't say I'm missing my my feet being mashed by the walking.
Yeah, I've already got one favourite device which I think looks really nice, but I'm sure we'll talk about that. Yeah,
go on then. Let's start with that CES. So, what have you seen on there that you've seen so far? Caught your attention so far?
It was, I mean, obviously there's a whole slew of new laptops, but the thing that really caught my eye was the little HP mini desktops.
Yeah, me too.
Which almost, they're almost like the old kind of hooky puck, aren't they? In a way, I guess they're a lot smaller than that, but they're kind of, not what you expect a PC to be. And I guess as we've got devices like the Surface Pro 3 and that, you know, ultra slim with the custom Core i whatever its processor. But so these devices are getting smaller and smaller and aren't necessarily losing any of the punch. You know, one of the HP mini desktops was, you know, you can get all the way up to a Core i7, and yet, you know, it's this really tiny little device that I didn't see whether or not it was actually fanless, but you know, it's like, what is it? You said it's like 1.6 pounds and 2 inches tall, but yet still has a display port, HDMI output. You know,
I mean, it's basically their answer to the Nook, isn't it? The Intel Nook thing, which I don't know if I mentioned, but I set up a media center on a Nook just before Christmas, which for a friend, and that works incredibly well. One of the Celeron-based ones, and it's incredible. I mean, for a media center PC, it's incredibly well powered for the bare bones unit costing less than £100. It's crazy, and the HP streams look exactly the same, and they look nice as well. I must admit, they do look just quite stylish.
Yeah, there's two, isn't there? There's two. There's the Pavilion, which is the i7 one. And I think there's other processor options as well with 4 gig of RAM, $319, which seems pretty reasonable price, keyboard and mouse. But the one I liked, I think would make a nice little media player, was the Stream Mini, which is the 32 gig SSD, 2 gig of RAM, $179. So I guess that'd be 170 quid, 150 quid, something like that.
Yeah, and if you think about it, it's very similar. It's a screenless version of the tablets we're running around with these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can, and I've been using because I've been traveling a bit. I've been using my Lynx 8 with an HDMI out on it the last few days, and using that in hotels, and that's been brilliant. It's like, and that's can run media really, really well, full HD, and I'm sure the Stream will be able to do exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean that's the Lynx tablets are a nice example of that, and yeah, just a desktop version of that is a great idea, and I think. Yeah, the limited storage space probably means that you're not going to be using it as your main sort of media server, but it would certainly make a nice client with stick up to your HDMI, put Plex on it, media browser, or you can even put Windows 7 on there with Media Center. It would work.
Windows 8 or Windows 8 with Media Center.
Yeah, that's
which is what I did on the Nook, and that worked really well.
So I think that's a nice device.
Yeah, I think so. And I just said in the chat room, you know, I remember when I built our media center PC, you know, spending over £100 just to find a case, just for a case that was thin enough and small enough to fit under the TV into the TV unit. And here it is, you know, $319, which I guess will probably translate pound for dollar into the UK. And it's like, you know, that's tiny enough to easily fit.
Yeah.
You know, and even the $179 one, which I presume is probably going to be, I didn't see a processor mentioned, but I'd imagine it's one of the not your grandparents'
it is Atom.
Yes.
But you know, even that these days is going to be enough to drive a media center PC.
Yeah, well, as I said, that Nook with this Celeron in worked incredibly well, and I think that's actually a full. It's got terabyte storage in it and the Blu-ray player, and I actually put the whole thing together for 130 quid.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it?
It's scary.
I mean, I had one of the questions I had on Google Plus, believe it or not. Someone asked whether you could use it for over-the-air TV recording, and I'm sure you could. You could stick a USB drive in there and a USB tuner, and
yeah, I can't see why not.
In fact, if you got the best thing would be to get one of these USB hubs, like I've got this Innotek one, where USB 3 hub, and it's powered as well, so you could then plug whatever you want off the back of it out of the way, tuck it out of the way.
Yeah.
So I think that would make a nice media sort of. You could use that for recording and then just, you know, distributing to various clients. So I think for those prices, you're not far off the Roku pricing.
Yeah, it's getting crazy, man.
I remember one year when we were at CES, there was the ones that was sort of designed to fit on the back of your TVs, but this is kind of a return to that, just a smaller version.
Do you think it's that small so it fits under the 8-inch size so it gets free license?
Well, it does come with Office 365. I think it doesn't. I don't think it wasn't Office 365. It said it came with. It came with the OneDrive. I think it was 200 gig of OneDrive.
Yes, yeah, it was. Yeah, for a year.
Yeah, so you won't get Office on it, but you'll get your OneDrive storage.
It's an interesting one, that is. So if it's something that comes without a screen, how does it, what's the screen size? If I plug a data screen into that, can I get free license?
I actually had to read that twice when I saw the 200 gigabyte of OneDrive, because my brain initially kind of went, well, why would you get 200 gigabyte when you get unlimited for free? And I was like, no, it's not. That's with Office.
Yeah.
But when you look at, if you're going to continue that 200 gigabytes on beyond a year, an Office license actually, the home one isn't that much more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 70. Well, I think it's 70 quid, isn't it, or something like. You might as well just buy yourself an 8-inch or 7-inch tablet and get it for a year free.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean
the tablet every year. That's
yeah. Just a tip on that. I don't know if I don't think I've mentioned this before, but if you're looking to get an Office 365 home subscription, either the personal or the home one that comes with 5 licenses, basically buy the code from Amazon, because you'll get quite a discount. You'll save at least £10-15 a year.
Right. That's worth it.
And then you just type that code into Office Online, and you get like an activation card basically. But as a bit like buying Xbox Live, it's always cheaper to buy a code through Amazon than it is to buy direct online. And
talking of the sort of the tablets, you see Asus have got quite a few new ones out.
Yeah, and Toshiba as well. I like the Toshiba pen-based things they've been releasing today. That was one of my things I picked up on.
Yeah, I think that's the new version of the Encore, is it?
Well, it's I can't remember what they've actually called it, but it's effectively a new range. It looks like the Encore in sort of that's tablet size, but it's a version which comes with a pen, and they've actually given it a range name which it totally escapes me at the moment. I'll look it up in a second. But the idea about it is the pen is actually very high quality. It's like the Stardust on the Surface 4 Pro, so it should be really good quality. But again, it's atom based and sub £300 for pretty good things, and I suspect that we might see smaller versions of those at even less cost at some point.
Who is it that there was one tablet I think was announced where they've got like an AnyPen technology where you can use literally anything like a pencil or a pen to actually operate the touch screen.
I can't remember.
Yeah, but my first instinct on that was, well, surely you're going to leave ballpoint
over
your screen.
Scratch it. Yeah,
gouge marks.
Use a chisel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's such a good idea. I like the I think it was a Transformer Book T90, which was a 8.9-inch tablet, but with the keyboard. I just got a Transformer Book for work for a colleague, and I'm just setting that up today. And actually, that was the 11-inch one. But I think the 8.9-inch would make a quite nice sort of iPad size, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Almost Surface. It's almost like this Surface 2 is not far off from that size, but with the keyboard as well, I think that's quite a nice option. $299 for that. So there's a lot of choice out there for your money now. What there will be.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, like I say, there's a whole list of new Ultrabooks that I've seen announced, and laptops, and I think there was even some was it all-in-ones or certainly again I saw the curved monitors from HP, which looks like that's going to be quite a big deal. And I as I said before, I certainly get a curved monitor for use as a PC monitor. I don't so much get it as a TV, but I could certainly use one of those as as connected to the Surface Pro 3, for example.
Yeah, we've seen the curved TVs. I think that yes, they look nice. I just thought it's a bit like you just get the impression though it's just something else to try and make you buy something, isn't it? It's like 5K. Yeah. They're offering 5K now, aren't they? And
well, 5K is widescreen, 4K, but
yeah.
So 5K is actually 4K. Because of the two different definitions in the cinema and the television industry. Right. So if you go to see a 4K at the cinema, it's actually 5K on a TV. There we go, just to confuse you more.
My head's spinning round.
Yeah.
Like I said, a curved monitor, I certainly get that, because as monitors get bigger and bigger, and you are sat so close to them, you do get an odd image, as each edge is kind of away from your eye line. So I certainly get it, in that kind of usage scenario.
Yeah,
I'd certainly be tempted to try one out.
Yeah, I think other stuff announced that I've seen has been a lot of things with sensors, isn't there, and everything getting an IP address and having some kind of sensor built into it. That seems to be the big thing. Because I think last year it was a lot of wearable stuff. This year it's a lot of sensors.
Yeah, I saw one sensor which was like an underarm thermometer, which transmits over Bluetooth, so that you can monitor your kids if one of them's not well, or get it to alarm you if their temperature starts to rise again. And I can certainly see, usages for things like that. The other thing I saw was, I can't remember the manufacturer, but I saw someone had released almost like a triple play mobile phone, which is going to be not, you can't boot between different ones, but it's been manufactured in a way that they can run off a Windows Phone version, an Android version, and I can't remember what the other operating system was. But essentially it's the same hardware capable of running 3 different operating systems.
That Toshiba range, just before I forget, is on-core to write. So it's on-core number 2 write. So I suppose it's a bit like Galaxy Note.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that now. I think I'll get a post on that because I'm a big fan of the on-core.
Yeah, I think the right for that. I didn't know what the branding was going to be when I did see that in prototype form at IFA, and I was really impressed with it. So I think it's going to be really good.
Well, hopefully, the Gadget Show live is usually Easter time, isn't it? So I guess we'll start to see. Usually, you get to see them there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was anything else CES that you saw that caught your interest?
The only other, I guess, kind of relatively big announcement, obviously, the new generation of the Intel Core processors, and Core M, I think they are.
Yeah. So I saw a lot about Core M at IFA, mentioned it then, but this is actually when they're starting to actually really appear. And there's a lot about it. That's why we're starting to see a lot thinner, lighter, fanless devices, and that's only going to happen more and more this year. I think we're going to see some really good form factors coming over in the next few months.
Yes, I mean, it'd be interesting if we there was a small revision to the Surface Pro 2, wasn't it? It would be interesting if there's a revision to the Surface Pro 3, which we just by luck having just bought one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Asus tablets we talked about before, that's got, well, one of them's got the Core M in it.
Mm-hmm.
But with this really good variety, brings us back to our question, isn't it, with them of whether Microsoft really need to do a Surface, because it seems to be that the hardware manufacturers are starting to come out with some interesting form factors at good prices now, and maybe Microsoft don't need to push the hardware themselves anymore.
Yeah, unless you actually want to still set that bar, which is what they were trying to do before, and push people on to actually make sure that they're still doing that, because obviously that's what's happened. But if you think about it, the other manufacturers are still just catching up with where Microsoft were a year ago with the Surface, effectively. So it'd be nice to see what they can do with the Surface and just keep pushing on that way.
I think also with the Surface devices, for me, it's not just about the hardware; it's also about the experience. That I know the HP Stream laptops still come with all different HP utilities pre-installed, and you kind of I can't remember what the Microsoft stores offers, where they give you a clean. You can buy a laptop of any not any manufacturer, but it's kind of clean of anything else. I can't think what they call it now.
Signature.
Signature. Thank you. Yeah. Right. So for me, that's the Surface experience that I like. It's that you just get a laptop, and that's kind of what I liked about ARM. Obviously, it's not possible to do that because the applications just don't exist. So even the Nokia was, apart from Nokia Music and Nokia Maps being pre-installed, it was still a clean experience. But yeah, that's what I like about the Surface Pro 3, that it's just Windows. You don't get anything else. Yeah,
and I think then you get those signatures from the Microsoft Store, which you can now get in the UK as well. So maybe that's another reason that the signature editions are out there as well.
Yeah.
And what else did we? Oh yeah, I watched one of the keynotes. Actually, it's quite interesting watching the keynote streamed. It's a lot easier if you were wanting to live blog it to watch it at home on a keynote live stream than it is sat in one of those conference rooms with dodgy Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Just in a few years, how things have changed.
Yeah. I think soon we'll have our presence robots over there, so we don't actually have to physically go, but we're still going to talk.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm just trying to think what else if I've seen anything else out there. I always found when we were at CS, it wasn't really the headline stuff that was the most interesting because everybody reports on that. It's more the little things that you find as you're sort of wandering around. So you do kind of miss those when you're not there. But the Samsungs and the Samsung press conference was streamed live, and the LGs and Sony was, and I watched a bit of the LG one, but they started talking about washing machines, so I switched off.
Yeah.
As much as my interest with domestic appliances, it stops at the iRobot. Now, we've got a couple of news items, but I've got a couple of emails as well, so don't forget those. So let me. Right, a couple of things we got on email. One is from James Duncan, who sent this in just after our Christmas show. He says, "Hi, and I hope you had a good Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'm just catching up on my podcast over Christmas, and I've just heard the Christmas quiz podcast. In this, Tony Parks emailed in asking for help in backing up the Lynx 7 tablet. As it happened, I had the same issue, not with the Lynx 7, but with a couple of devices. So do you remember we talked about this, where the Lynx 7 wouldn't back up on the home server? I think, Jason, you had the same. You mentioned you had an issue anyway. So James says he's found the solution, and there's a hotfix which will include a link for in the show note. It installs support for UEFI based computers.
Right.
Yeah, so when I installed this hotfix, it was updated the client for all my existing clients. It also failed on the first run of a manual backup following the hotfix, but I think there's another window update that installs afterwards. That fixes this hotfix, so run this update after the hotfix. So I guess you install this hotfix on your home server, don't you, rather than the Lynx tablet or whatever, so that it then supports the UEFI BIOS. Yes, you do. It's for the home server 2. I just click link for home server 2011. So you install this update on your home server, and then it will back up those devices. So Tony Parks, there's your solution via James. You just install this on your home server, and you'll be able to back up the devices. So I guess that would affect anything with those modern style of BIOSes.
Yeah, I guess so.
Including the Surface Pro 3.
Yeah, I'm trying backing up that. Any of the services up to my home server, so I'm going to give that a go and see if it breaks.
Yeah,
that hotfix wouldn't work for me because I'm still on the original home server.
I'm just trying to think whether or not I ever backed up the Surface Pro 2 to the home server. I mean, it's how things have changed. It was that the Connect software was one of the first things I installed onto a new laptop or a new installation. But as I say, I turned off our home server over a year ago, and I just don't. I think I've maybe got a couple of PCs where it's still sitting on there, but I just don't install it anymore.
That's actually reminded me. I missed out on this on the Christmas show. That song we started to come up with about last year. We gave you Media Smart.
Yeah,
I actually got someone emailed me in some lyrics for that, which I thought were really good. I'll try and dig them up in the next couple of minutes. we can call them out, but they are really good.
That was Jason upsetting this home server by switching it off for Christmas. You couldn't get crueler than that, could you?
No, absolutely not. I noticed also Richard Hay over at Windows Observer, he switched his home server off over the Christmas period this year for the same reasons that now he's got all his data in OneDrive, just doesn't have the need. And with the PC refresh, you just don't have the need to really do a full complete restore.
Oh, but I must continue with the rest of the email anyway, because James says, finally, I asked a couple of months ago if anyone had issues with vanity URLs for Windows Home Server, and I believe that both you and Gary had a solution. You were going to speak about it next week, but I'm still waiting on Tentugs to find out what the solution was. So I nearly forgot to read it out then. So I remember that we were talking about that. That's where you can have sort of iandixon.homeserver.com, isn't it?
Which you can't have anymore because taken that away. I think the one I'm using is ddns.com at the moment. I'll just try to find it for you.
Because I had my own URL set up anyway.
You could
fix the address.
You can always do that. Yeah. So which one I use?
So so you can actually. It's been a while since I set mine up. So you can actually pick your own. So Jason, when you did your own, did you just register your DNS and?
Yeah, I mean, it's so long ago now. I think what I had was when you use the inbuilt vanity URL, it sets up all the certificates and everything. So I think while I set up my own URL, I think I just ignored the certificate warnings.
Right. Yeah. You have to. I actually can't find what I'm using. Oh yes.
I think there was a drop down, wasn't there, whether or not you wanted to use the Microsoft one, or I think it was one dynamic DNS service, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's really hated. That's going back a long way.
I know. I looked at No IP as well, which gives you a few options in terms of that's no-ip.com.
Because all you really want, it's if your DNS is changing, isn't it? Your home IP address. So you want to have because even if you've registered your own domain name and you've got a domain name you can use, your home IP may be changing. So you need that system to communicate.
Yeah.
But I think there are some there are a few that you sort of third parties.
Yeah. ddns.net. That's what I've been using, which actually seems to work really well.
Ah, there you go, James. So you get off your tenterhooks now.
Yeah. So I can't remember where that redirects to, but basically it's what they basically got a whole load of different choices and names, and you can choose to pay more, and they'll give you you can actually have your own name or whatever you like on that as well. So they'll even set it up with your own domain name if you want to. So you've got lots of options on there. But the interesting thing about that was there was actually an option to get SSL certificates as well associated with it, which obviously gets around some of the problems.
Yeah, that's it's not something I used because even on my server here, which is running home server, the VideoBox one, but it's running Plex, and Plex has its own sort of system for doing for matching up, a bit like Media Browser does as well, for matching up your IP with your host name, so you don't have to worry about all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, the good thing about that DNS thing was it's actually supported by my router as well, so that it automatically updates the IP on it every time it changes, which is cool.
Yeah, that's good. So hopefully that answers your question, James, and thanks for the solution for the host server.
Yeah, brilliant.
And we've got another message in from Tim, who says he's been following our show for a long time and is curious to know what your setup is now. What do you record TV with? So I've mentioned this a few times, but I'm not recording TV at all at the moment now through any PC solution. I'm just using my Sky Plus box, which is good enough, I think, is probably the way to describe it. It's good enough to do what it wants to do. It doesn't give you any flexibility about distributing content or anything like that, but you can just use it for recording. But he was saying he's using Windows 7 Media Center and hasn't found any need to change it.
Yeah, I think if you've got Windows 7 running in Media Center, that's absolutely fine. I must admit, I actually, other than on the TiVo, which I've got some Virgin, which I don't actually record that much on, I very rarely record anything now. Most of the stuff's watching on catch up.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, so much of it now is available, isn't it?
Yeah.
The only thing I've found is it's the odd things on kind of like the old Doctor Who episodes, which you can't get on catch up. So that's why I end up recording. So I get the planners full of old Doctor Who episodes at the moment. Because I'm not watching that one. It's in black and white.
We switched to the Humex device over a year ago now, I think. So we just record through FreeSat, and I think the only reason really that drove us to change, because we were quite happy with Windows 7 Windows 8 Media Center that we were using, was just the fact that the guide data had just become so unreliable, particularly around the series links. And that's what my wife got the most frustrated with, which forced us to move away and go with the Humex. And that still suffers it to a little bit, but more and more we're using catch-up TV and not necessarily relying on the recorded TV. But still, the frustration from my wife's perspective is that she still doesn't have any way of saying, just show me my evening's viewing. I don't care what service it's on. I just want to be able to create like a watch list. And also with Catch Up TV, you still have to remember that you've missed something.
Yeah.
I know iPlayer supports favorites, so you can just go in there, and there's also the FreeSat app for the iPad, which again you can go in and set favorites up, and you can kind of go through the Catch Up TV service and do play on TV, and it will send it to the Humex and start playing it. But you still need to, there's still to some degree you need to know which service it's on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the beauty of recording something through, say, the Sky Plus planner. You just pick your shows and they're just there. You don't really care when they're on, but you do have to, if you use an iPlayer, you do think, oh, I've not watched that yet. I'll have to catch up, watch that. So yes, it would be nice if there was some integration.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So yes, that's our setup really. And like I say, the only thing that drove us to move away from Media Center really was the fact that the guide data just became unreliable. And the one thing that my wife still misses from Media Center is the fact that it would always pick up new series. Once you set a series to record, and it went off air and it came back on air, it would carry on recording it. Which I know Sky have recently introduced that feature, haven't they?
Yeah, and TiVo does that anyway. So that's always
which it's the one thing that the Humex doesn't do.
Yeah.
I've found myself watching the iPlayer on the Xbox quite a bit as well. It's quite a nice interface, and it's a quick way of getting that content. I mean, you can do it through the Sky box by going through the sort of browsing through it, but I find it much easier on the Xbox. So that's got a bit of use.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, actually, I haven't done a post on this because it's very US centric. But did you see that? I think you can get Sling Player now on the Xbox.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, actually. I mean, you can use Slingbox here as well. So, have you done that in the past? So, yeah, it's quite interesting. I wonder how good the client is, because I've always found Slingbox a bit clunky, the client side.
Yeah, it's just something that's not. I think it's just more applicable to sort of the US market, isn't it? But basically, if everybody's not seen this before, it's a box you put between you. I think you put it between your TV and your set-top box, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it streams that.
Streams it. Yeah, it basically streams exactly what you're getting.
Yeah,
I did actually use it at one stage. Tested it with box. What I found that was I was struggling with reliability on the actual stream boxes themselves, Sling boxes, sorry, on themselves. I think we had about 4 in for review, and virtually only one of them actually worked for more than about 3 weeks. So that was a bit disconcerting. I mean, admittedly, these have been out in circulation quite a bit because they're a review kit, but even so, the reliability didn't seem that brilliant.
Yeah, and also it's the old IR blasting as well. It's not.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it's always a bit. I always find that hit miss.
Yeah. Anyway, are you ready for these lyrics? Because I've dug them up. So I'm not going to sing this because my singing voice is awful. Well,
come on.
Last Christmas gave you the Media Smart. The very next day took Drive Pool away. This year, to save me from tears, I'm moving to Server Essentials.
That's fantastic. And excellent singing too.
You're through to boot camp.
Best songwriter, yeah. The publisher of that is author of that is remaining anonymous, he says.
If I was almost like George Michael was in the room.
I just like that.
That's brilliant. That it was excellent contribution there. Now, what else did I want to tell you about? I don't know, I mentioned this last week, but I was looking at doing sort of a bit of sort of robotic, sort of getting into robotic programming or something like that. Since I got the little robot, and I actually thought maybe I could use it for a bit of educational stuff with kids and a bit have a go myself. So I looked at some of the Arduino type kits, and I think I saw an article about the NetDuino, which is a .NET based version. So I was kind of looking at the best options for this, but in the end I went with the Arduino because you can get an Arduino starter kit, which is what I picked up. So that's got the Arduino microcontroller board, but it also comes with a breadboard and a load of components, resistors and LEDs, temperature sensors, switches, and light switches and things like that. So it came today, actually. I just started playing with it. Actually, it's pretty good, actually. It's pretty fun stuff getting into it. The programming language is C. It seems fairly basic, and so I managed to rig up a little temperature monitor thing that would sort of a green light shows if it's within the required temperature range, blue light if it's cold, and a red light if it's too warm. And I managed to put a variable resistor on there that controls the flashing LED, and really, really fun stuff. But the starter kit is really good. It comes with a motor and a 2-line LCD display, and a potentiometer, all sorts of, and a great little book as well. So you get this sort of book here with all the sort of the start with the examples in. It's just like a 45-minute session, project, and it gives you the wiring and then gives you the code as well, so you can start typing it in. But it's a good way of learning because you're sort of entering the code as you're going along, and within a couple of minutes, I was sort of tinkering around with the code and adding wires here and there. So I've got this now. So I've got this Arduino. So it looks really good, actually. I think it would have been easier with the .NET language, but I think you could probably switch to that later. When you're first starting out, you need sort of a nice sort of sample code and a few components to throw on there. So you need to be able to do something with it. But I've been really pleased with it.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So eventually, what I'd like to get is to make some kind of vehicle that we can navigate, move forward, backwards, left, right, and then put some sensors on it so you can add some intelligence. And then I want to be able to sort of code into that the intelligence. But so far I've got flashing lights and the temperature sensor, but it's cool. Early days. It's fun stuff though. I mean, I think I should be able to get the kids into it, because I think it's more interesting than just basic programming, because you're making lights flash and sensors.
That's right. That's what I liked about that Fuse Raspberry Pi case, because that had all that stuff on. And in fact, very similar to that, with the same sort of kit bits and the cards. And that was just fun to do, that sort of thing. So yeah, I can really see that being good fun. I think we mentioned last week the Galileo being down in price.
Yes, I looked at that. Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's an Intel based, and you can write .NET stuff on there. So that's another option as well. But definitely the Arduino stuff's a lot cheaper at the moment. So I think you can get the Uno for sub 20 quid if you look around and things like that. So, which is interesting, because you can put a few components together and you can build yourself a home control system quite easily.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was looking at. I mean, like I said, it comes with a 2-line display, so very much like the displays it used to stick on the front of my PC a few years ago. Yeah. I was into that kind of stuff. So I guess you could, because there's a lot of options to plug things into it. So I think the next thing would be some kind of wireless network interface, and then you can maybe build some kind of just have a server here that accepts HTTP requests, and you can use that to communicate them.
I was looking at to control the home easy stuff I've got around the flat. So what I'm using voice control for, because it's quite easy to plug in an R433 megahertz wireless chip into one and program it that way. And there's a few recipes out there for doing that as well. So that's quite good. Actually, I came up with a solution for a problem today on my home network, which home automation system, which has been plaguing a few other people as well. So let's try and explain this. So on the Home Easy system, if you've got a dimmer, the way you actually use it is to dim a light, you switch it on and then you switch it on again. So you turn it on twice, and it will then start dimming through the cycle of dimming. And then you turn it on again, and it will stop dimming at that point and stay on, which is great. Which is until you get home automation system involved. Because if you've just got one remote control paired to this thing, it's fairly easy. But if you've got multiple signals going to it, you end up with the situation, particularly one I have, where I've got I've got an infrared sensor which will turn the light on, but I might also manually turn the light on as well. And if I manually turn the light on and then the infrared sensor detects it, it will go into the fader cycle, which is a pain. So I discovered that Teldus, with their Telstick.net system, have actually found a way, hidden away in the Home Easy protocol, of actually setting absolute dimmer levels.
Right.
Which is quite good, and it only works with Home Easy equipment which has got the self-learning option. So it's not the code switch ones, but the ones which actually learn the codes. But you can set those up, pair them with the Telstick, and then you can actually set absolute values of the fader level. Now that then becomes an interesting question, because how do you control that? Because if you've only got a push button, and it has to write clever strips on the tail stick to do it. And I found that there's a really good app for the Pebble Watch to actually control the tail stick. So I got that set up, and that actually allows me to set the fader levels for my watch, which is really cool.
Oh, that's pretty good, because that's always a problem. That was the problem with the X11.
X10.
Stuff. That's it. Yeah. It never really knew what state it was in.
Yeah, and that's the problem with the easy stuff, because it is all fire and forget. It doesn't tell you what state it is in. Which, I mean, obviously X10, the Z-Wave stuff we talked about, Z-Wave stuff we talked about with Mark a few months back would get around that problem, because you do get a state back for that, and you could actually work out which state it was in and choose to turn it on or not. But it's a lot more expensive, and I wanted to use the stuff I've already got. So I've managed to get a load of behind the wall switch dimmers, which will respond to this absolute dimming thing, and I've actually retrofitted every switch in the flat, which is really cool.
Well, that's very good. That's one thing I was thinking of doing, something like that, whether I could do that with the Arduino, because it's got a lot of options to switch things on and off. In fact, what I did find was a nice little they call them shields, I think, don't they, for the sort of the add-ons. Yeah. There's a shield that works with Android that will then use all the sensors of the Android device. So you can get some integration that way as well. So I think I have to play about with these, but basically I want to build an army of robots. I think that's
as I said,
the world.
So we need a robot host, we need robot presence for doing shows, for doing conferences, and we just then we can have the rest of the week off.
That's a fantastic idea. I think we'll have to look into that. Now, what else did we want to talk about? Just while we're talking media platforms, there's been a few new bits and pieces. Did you see that Plex have announced some new music features for their system?
Yeah, I didn't get the full details of this.
I think we'll have to get them back on the show. But with Plex, the video support is fantastic, and we talked about that, the media metadata and all that kind of stuff. The music was always pretty basic, and I tend to just use Xbox music. But I think this might have me thinking about the way to do it. Their upgraded audio features are that they're using Grace Note for audio fingerprinting to identify the song. So you don't have to have the file name, say, Wish You Were Here .mp3 or whatever. It uses audio fingerprinting with Grace Note to get the metadata.
Useful.
Yeah. And they've got automated recommendations and enhanced music and file data. So it looks like the metadata side of it's going to be a lot better. So it already is a good service. I mean, you can just stream or you can download whatever you want to do. So it's like a personal cloud version of that. It's like your own version of Xbox Music or whatever, just put your personal sort of content. And they're also, if you've got a Plex Pass, they're also giving Vivo, you can watch videos for your own collection via Vivo.
Yeah, which is a nice feature.
Yeah, which is a bit like the Xbox Music.
Yeah, it plays videos if you can find one. Yeah.
Yeah, which I do really like. Actually, we were using that over New Year's Eve for put some music on. We put the video versions on, and it's quite a nice way of doing that. So that looks quite good. So that's coming sort of in the next few weeks, I think. So they're looking at doing that. Now, if you're using the other service, Media Browser, which is a great system for your own media. If you're an Android user, if you want to get the app quick, because it's free at the moment, saving you a couple of quid.
Excellent.
And very powerful stuff. The Media Browser and the streaming capabilities on there. So both. Nice thing about both those services, you don't have to really choose a platform. You just set your server up and then just have the client for whatever you want. That's the problem I found with Xbox Music. It's tied. It doesn't link with my Sonos, and there's other things. Whereas I think if you set up with Media Browser or Plex, you've probably got more options for more devices. And they've also updated their Kodi XBMC front end as well. What else do we have? VLC. Beta for Windows Phone is now open to all.
Yes, I saw that. That's good.
Yeah. So that means you can give VLC a try if you're not on the original beta list. VLC cross-platform media player plays just about everything. And had a bit of a painful, I think, gestation period for Windows Phone, you could say.
More than a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, you can give that a try now. I don't think there's any background audio in the current version, although that is being worked on.
Yeah.
And so once that's up and running, I think really you've got a really good media player on there. I don't know. Have you given this a try yet, Jason?
I haven't. No, I mean, like I said, I don't really have a need for it, so it's difficult. But it's certainly good. It's we talk about the app gap. Well, it's a good one to have there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that is. I did notice when I've been out and about recently, you see a lot of the stores, the Costa Coffee, you download our app and pay with your app, but yeah, nothing for Windows Phone.
No, although I have started to see adverts on the telly. I can't remember what it was for now, but it was nice to see the Windows Store logo sitting next to the Android and the App Store, the Apple App Store logo. So that was, I think things are changing slowly.
Yeah, we just got to wait now for the. I think things will change when we see what happens with Windows 10, and I've seen quite a few people saying you can officially call it Windows Mobile now.
Right.
So, having spent a few years, laughing at people when they call Windows Phone Windows Mobile, we may be back.
Yeah, look, that's going to make the agent's life a lot easier because they all call it Windows Mobile Dev when they talk to me. So.
Yeah, so maybe we'll see that. So we've only got a couple of weeks to wait for that, haven't we?
Yes. Yeah, not long now.
And any sign of Lumia Denim on any of your devices?
Not for my country variant, no.
Mine neither.
It seems to be a very odd rollout. You'd think, the country variants would just be, a standard rollout. There's nothing to restrict them shipping it. It just seems it's still, just there's not enough information, I think, basically.
Yeah, I don't know. You talked about this app before, but do you remember there was an app that told you whether you can get it or not?
Yeah, I posted a tweet. I tweeted.
Yes,
that's where I got the link from. Then it was from you. Yeah, so I've got that installed, and mine's a Hong Kong country variant 1520. So I checked, and it isn't available. But funny enough, the 1320 is the lower price one.
It's we've said this before. It's just weird how this thing works out. But I must admit, I have had a bit more background on how this all works behind the scenes. I unfortunately can't talk about it, but when you actually understand what the operators make Microsoft go through, it becomes more understandable why we get this really patchy release and things going on. It's just a shame that they didn't put their foot down like Apple did initially.
Yeah.
But I guess they were in a position where they couldn't afford to put their foot down like Apple did because they didn't have the market share. But
I still don't quite understand how that works for the country variants though, because there's no carrier.
There might be.
Oh, okay. We can either confirm nor deny.
I can neither confirm nor deny that depending on which country you're in, there might be some influence from carriers.
Right. Yeah, I mean, especially when you get into like the situations like mine, and I was talking to someone on Twitter today about it, who we've both got the imported 1520s from Hong Kong, so it's the Hong Kong country variant, but we're using them here in the UK. But I think the sign off is done by the country, isn't it? So it will be whenever in Hong Kong it's approved, will then go on mine, even though it's been on use in the UK. It's very strange.
Yeah, it does depend what agreements Microsoft got in each country with each set of carriers, basically. And what exclusivity they've got out there as well. So.
Yeah. Now, what else did I wanted to talk about this week? So I think that was all the main things, actually. I posted the review of the Roku 3. So I've been pretty impressed with it, actually. I really like that device, especially the mirror casting side of it. I think mirror casting is an interesting option. Oh, there was actually one other thing as well I do want to mention. Now, I've not seen a lot of details about this, but have you seen this new Google casting, audio casting
to network devices?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I like you. I have not seen any real details on it, but it does sound interesting.
Yeah. So I saw a post on it today, but it's you're casting audio from your phone to a network speaker. So, but it's doing the same thing as Chromecast, where it's actually handing off the control. So if I'm playing Dark Side of the Moon on my phone and I send it to the mobile device in the network speaker, it doesn't then require my phone to be on anymore. It then is sort of handed it over,
which is very nice.
Yeah,
concept.
But I guess this has to have supported devices, isn't it? So I think the Sony, LG, and Denon are planning to bring them out, but I don't know whether we'll see support from Sonos or any of the other.
Yeah.
Although I suppose Sonos kind of already does that to degree. You don't need your phone. You're not casting from your phone when you use Sonos. You're saying where it's a source. It's either from the phone or it's from Google Play Music or where it's Spotify or whatever.
But in this case, what they're doing is effective music matching, isn't it? So that they're whatever you're playing locally is then cast. They find the equivalent on their service. Is how I read it anyway. But as I said, it's very sketchy in terms of the details, so it's difficult to say that's for certain exactly how it's going to work. But if it does, that's very cool.
Because as I've said before, I think that's my one complaint with Xbox Music is it just needs. It needs to be integrated with third parties because it's a real limitation of the service. Other Spotify, Google Music, Deezer, and all these other support services are supported on multiple devices, but Xbox Music is only supported by. Yes, you can get the client on Android and on the iPad or the iPhone. You can't. There's not actually an iPad version of it, but it doesn't. You can't really then hook it up to other devices.
No, you can't. But having said that, the SDK and APIs are out there, and people could write these things. It's just really whether there's a incentive to do so.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing that maybe we'll see some changes to that. Whether Microsoft really need to have a service, an Xbox Music service, or they just embrace one like Spotify. It's okay. So I think that's most things I wanted to talk about this week. So maybe next week I'll be replaced by a robot host.
Never.
Just one thing I wanted to follow up from last week. I mentioned that I was struggling to find a USB OTG cable for the 8, the Lynx 8. I managed to get one from Amazon. All good things come from Amazon, which was the Afunta AEFUNTA OTG micro USB. And it cost me the grand sum of £2, and it works brilliantly.
It's amazing, isn't it? You just get everything from there. Okay.
Yeah. What I would say is, so it came in a box. Came with a micro HDMI cable, and I don't recommend that because it actually broke off in the connector. I had to get the pliers out to get it out. But the actual USB to go OTG cables works really well.
Oh, we've just got a couple of questions in the chat room as well. I missed before. Guest 810 was saying just started using Plex on a QNAP NAS. Can Plex do TV recording? I think it doesn't. You can't record TV. You'd have to use another service and maybe get it as a DLNA stream or something like that. Well, I think James has already answered that. Actually, he says Plex doesn't do TV recording. Yeah, DVB Link would be the way. To go with that.
I was going to say that's what I was going to say. DVB Link would be an option.
And yeah, James posted that, and he also says that the Roku 3 is cool, but could do some more UK channels.
Yeah. He's got most of them. As I said last week, now TV is cheaper if you want to do Plex on it, which I know. Yeah. So I've been pretty pleased with Plex so far, and it works well. Yeah.
So thanks to everybody that joined us in chat. It was quite busy in there tonight. I was just they all came through at once on there. Jess, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at DatabaseJace.
And we'll find you back here at 8:00 next Tuesday. And
yes.
Gary, where are you?
At Gary WMA on Twitter and at fascinatingtech.com.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll make sure you follow those links to go and check out Fascinating Tech. And we'll have to decide what we're going to do because it's the 10th anniversary of the show this year.
Yeah, I know. Crazy.
Yeah, March 2005. So we'll have to decide, and we'll be up to show 500 pretty soon because this is 482. So
yeah, so that'll be 18 weeks time. Yeah. Trying to work out where that takes us to.
Yeah, where's that? That's got to be spring, hasn't it? At least.
Yeah, sometime in the spring. So we'll decide what we'll do. Maybe we will finally get our get together in person.
What will come first, Windows 10 or Show 500?
I think Show 500.
Almost certainly.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, many thanks to everybody who joined the chat room. It's good to see you in there. And James was saying he's referring to not TV channels but other channels, I suppose, because I think Roku call them channels for the add-ins.
Oh yes, of course they do. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll be back next week, 8 o'clock Tuesday evening, to carry on the conversation. You can join us again in the chat room or on the podcast or anything else on our YouTube channel. You might as well subscribe to that. We've got quite a lot of videos on there. And we'll see you next week.
Okay, take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Oh, great.